What we know. He's about to find out, though. This thing is air portable, air droppable, amphibious, and can carry 8 fully loaded infantry soldiers. The Vietnamese called it the Green Dragon, and it usually had a 50 caliber machine gun on it. Oh! Uh-oh, he's been hit. You can hear that, the cadence of the firearms the VC are using. It's an AK-47, very distinctive. Oh, they've captured a soldier. They got an American soldier. They now have a hostage.
Oh, his name is Trump.
The Vietnamese were notoriously brutal with American captives. They were kept for many, many years and often tortured. They were starved, beaten, and then paraded in anti-American propaganda. The VC would then begin sending elements to their flanks to engage flanking troops. The relief force, led by APCs in the jungle and tanks in the open, would move in parallel route. Now, the Americans have been hit, but what the Viet Cong don't know is just as they were getting hit, the radio operator was able to call for distress.
Here comes the sheriff. I thought there was 8 people in that.
They was able to call for backup, so we'll wait and see if they're going to get help, or this guy's in a lot more trouble. They've got their prisoner. Looks like they're still ready to ambush whatever might come to help, and this is how they got more supplies and weapons, and then they could just disappear into the jungle. So about now, an American Sheridan tank would be coming to help them. These Sheridan tanks were built in 1966, but typical American Army. The gun wasn't the ammunition for the gun wasn't available for 3 more years, and then they rushed it into Vietnam. The tank was air droppable, amphibious, but it was also made from aluminum, lightweight. And because of that, it was pretty vulnerable to anti-tank. So here comes another M113. There's a guy on a 50 up there. 50 is a devastating weapon. It'll go through concrete block. It'll cut down trees. There's our Sheridan tank there. And you see the back of the 113 opens, and then they can let some more guys out of the back. First guy, see the big, there he's got an M60. The first guy with a belt feed weapon with the bipod on it. That thing is one fast machine gun. It was, oh, there's the 50. Now, we don't have helicopters today, but our group of guys actually are in luck. They're within artillery range. So the U.S. forces enjoyed fire superiority and utilized artillery and mortars to silence unknown numbers of enemy. So artillery from fire support bases could be called in by radio with corrections to the fire made by air observers or the infantry themselves. With an accurate grid reference and compass bearings, artillery could quickly be ranged in and fired with devastating effect. Expecting this, the enemy would often try and stay close to the Americans. You've heard of the friendly fire or danger close, and that would be their thing. So in this case, the call sign from the Sheridan's Reaper 1, and Reaper 1 would be calling into the artillery something like Grid Able Baker 2146-6432 4800 mils VC section and wood line over. Artie would answer back something like Roger, Grid Able Baker 2146-6432 4800 mils VC section and wood line. Message to observer fire control. Able Foxtrot 1027 break 1 battery 3 tubes 2 rounds HE 25 seconds over. So they're calling in the coordinates. The artillery's going to happen. They're going to fire for effect first, and then they're going to hear back from Reaper 1.
Where's he pointing the gun at?
What'll happen is they'll communicate back when they figure the artillery's done its job, and then they'll be able to move ahead. Now these guys, they think they're pretty safe. Oh, there's some farmers, some innocent-looking farmers at the back. We'll see what happens.
Gun him down.
Again, the VC could disappear into the woods, disappear into villages, melt right in, and they're waving, hi, how are you? Friendly, oh, not friendly. Standard Army Infantry Squad consisted of a squad leader, 2 fire teams. Alpha Bravo was made up of 10 men in the reality of combat. Many rifle squads are 5 to 8 men. The M60 machine gun, that's the one with the big belt of ammo, was moved around platoons as required, often kept together as a machine gun squad. They usually had a couple of those mounted on the 113s. They also had them on their Jeeps, which weren't really Jeeps, although a few were around then. They were mostly M151A1s. There's one in the museum here if you want to see it. I actually have an M151A2 of my own at home with an M60 on it. It's for Pokemon, I tell my neighbors. You can get 600 Pokemon a minute with an M60, by the way. Although the barrel tends to heat up after about 200 Pokemon. Now we saw the Americans there with the M16 rifle. They originally had an M14, and if you don't speak gun, it looked more like a World War II Garand. It was basically, the M14 was sort of a wooden thing, with semi-automatic, big heavy thing. The M16, which is very similar, or sort of the older brother to what Canadians have now, was made out of aluminum and plastic, steel being in the barrel and breech block, that sort of thing. They had a lot of problems with them initially as well, but they're basically the gun used today. It was the AR platform. Some people call it assault rifle. You hear AR-15 spoken about. It actually was for Armalite rifle. That was the manufacturer. And 15 just meant that it was their 15th try at it. But the AR platform is what's used today with Canadian C7s, C8s, what Canadian police officers also use. It looks similar to the ones we're seeing out there, but there was a lot of internal differences. Often at this point they would bring in helicopters to or dust-off crews to evacuate wounded if they were available, depending on weather and a number of other things. They were very brave. They often landed under fire. One of the hardest conditions soldiers face in a counter